Good morning, grade 8 students. In this video, we're going to talk about the introduction for the digestion chapter, and we're going to start with the types of food. In this video, we're going to talk about the types of food, types of inorganic and organic food, and what's the difference between these two. The food that we eat is classified either into organic food or inorganic food. What's the difference? What are the components of each of these? We will discover together. First, organic food, they consist of three groups. First group is called carbohydrates. The second is called the lipids. The third is called the proteins. What are carbohydrates? What are the lipids? What are the proteins? We will discuss together. The first type is called the carbohydrates. All of you, you know that, or you heard some people, they say carbs. Carbohydrates, they are the sugars or the starch or the fibers that are found in fruits, grains, vegetables, and the milk products. So these carbohydrates, they are a good source of energy. Banana is a source of carbohydrate. Bread is a good source of carbohydrates. So these are a good source of carbohydrates. Okay? So the first type of organic food is called the carbohydrates. It's abbreviated as carbs. Okay? So this is the first type. Moving for the carbohydrates, we have the sugars. Sugars, we have something called monosaccharide, something called disaccharide, and something called polysaccharide. So we're going to start step by step. Mono, what's the meaning of mono? From now on, whenever you hear the word mono, it means one. Okay? Mono, it's one. Saccharide, it's a sugar. So monosaccharide, it's one sugar. So monosaccharides, they are composed of only one sugar. Example about that, you have glucose, you have something called galactose, and something called fructose. So monosaccharides, they are glucose, galactose, and fructose. Whenever you hear the word disaccharide, these notes you have to study them. You have to know what are the monosaccharides. You have to know they are glucose, galactose, and the fructose. Okay? Disaccharide. What the meaning of di? Whenever you hear the word di, it's two. Disaccharide, it's a sugar that's composed of two different sugars. Example about them, sucrose, maltose, and lactose. Here, to go into the definition, what are the monosaccharides? The monosaccharides, they are simple sugars. They are the simple sugar, they are called monosaccharides. They are absorbed by the body cells, while disaccharides, they are two. So they are broken down. We said that the disaccharides, they are sucrose, we have maltose, and lactose. So here, sucrose, it's composed, as we said, it's disaccharide. It's composed of two sugars. So it's composed of glucose and fructose. So two sugars that are connected together, these are called disaccharide. So whenever glucose is connected to fructose, we call it sucrose. This is the first type of sugar of the disaccharide. Okay? Second type of the disaccharide is called maltose. What is maltose? Maltose, it's two sugars connected together. What are these two sugars? They are glucose and glucose. Whenever they are connected and bonded together, they form maltose. Lactose, whenever we have a glucose that is connected with galactose, so we have what is known by lactose. As you see here, all of them, they have glucose in common. Okay? So glucose plus fructose, it gives sucrose. While glucose with another glucose, it gives maltose. Glucose with another galactose, it gives lactose. So here you have to know that the simple form or the simple type of the sugars of the carbohydrates is called the monosaccharides. That's why it's directly absorbed. So the simple one is called monosaccharide and it's absorbed directly. While disaccharide, from its name as we said, it's two. So they are two sugars connected to each other. Like the case sucrose, it's glucose plus fructose. We have maltose, it's glucose plus glucose. And we have lactose, it's glucose plus galactose. These you have to know them, and you have to know what are the monosaccharides, their names, what are the disaccharides and their names, and what are they composed of. For example, sucrose is composed of glucose plus fructose, maltose, and lactose. Okay, let's move now to lactose. Lactose is the sugar that you tasted whenever you drink milk. They call it milk sugar. So lactose, it's composed of glucose, which is a monosaccharide, a sugar, connected with another sugar which is called galactose. So glucose with galactose, they form the lactose. So this is the milk sugar. The sugar that's found in the milk, you taste it whenever you drink milk, you have a sugary taste, a sweet taste. This is the lactose. So from now on, you have to know that lactose, it's a glucose plus galactose. Sucrose, which is the table sugar, the sugar that we use it at home. Sucrose, it's composed of two sugars, glucose and fructose. And this is the sucrose. So sucrose is the sugar that we use it at home whenever you use it for the tea or something like this. So sucrose, it's a glucose plus fructose. Both of them, they form what is known by sucrose. That's why it's called a disaccharide. It's composed of two sugars connected to each other. Maltose. We said that maltose, it's a glucose plus glucose. So two glucose molecules, they are connected to each other. They form the maltose. So maltose also is a disaccharide. It's composed of two sugars, glucose with another glucose. So from now, you have to know that carbohydrates, we have the simple form, it's called monosaccharide. Monosaccharide is composed of only one sugar. Disaccharide is composed of two simple sugars. Then we're going to move to the polysaccharide. Polysaccharides, it's consisting of long chain of glucose molecules. For example, here we're talking about starch. Starch, all of you, you know that it's produced by the green plants through the process of the photosynthesis. So starch is produced by green plants. It's tested by the iodine test. Whenever it gives dark blue color, meaning that we have iodine, we have starch. So starch is an example of the complex form of the carbohydrates, is an example about polysaccharides. Polysaccharides, they are long chain of glucose or other forms of sugars. They are found in many types of food, like the corn, like the potato, like the wheat. Fibers. Fibers, they are found in plants. Also, they are example about the polysaccharides. So another example about the polysaccharides is the fiber. So here, the fiber, they help in the process of digestion. That's why whenever a person having constipation or under insect, for example, the doctor said that you have to eat food or to eat fruits and vegetables. Why? Because they are rich in fibers. So the fibers, they have an important role to help in the process of digestion. So fibers also, they are referred to as cellulose. They are found where? In the plants. These notes, you have to study them. Okay? Lipids. First of all, we finished everything related to the carbohydrates. So to make it simple, carbohydrates, before we start with the lipids, carbohydrates consist of three different forms. We have simple, complex, and we have the intermediate. Simple is very simple. Intermediate is in between the complex and the simple. So the complex form, أكتر شيء معقد of the carbohydrates is called the polysaccharide. Why? Because it's composed of long chain, like this case. This is a complex form of the carbohydrates. Intermediate, it's called the dye. It's composed of two. While the simple form, it's called the monosaccharides. It's composed of only one sugar. Or you can move it from the opposite. Simple, intermediate, then complex. Simple form of carbohydrates, it's monosaccharide. It's composed of only one sugar. Dye, it's composed of two. Poly, three and more. Mainly it's a long chain like this one. They are connected to each other. It's called polysaccharides. Moving now to lipids. Lipids also they are type of organic food. Example about lipids includes fats, include the oils, include certain vitamins such as A, D, E, and K. So they are good source of energy. Lipids, they are formed of chains of fatty acids and glycerol. From now on, you have to know that lipids is a complex format. It's composed of simple, they are called fatty acid and glycerol. Whenever they meet together, fatty acids and glycerol, they form the lipids. So a chain, a long chain of fatty acids and glycerol, they are referred to as lipids. Foods, they are high in fats, for example, butter, chocolate, nuts and seeds, avocado, all of them they are lipids and they are a good source of energy. Note that the lipids they approve or they can give us a amount of energy that is double than that provided by the carbohydrates. Lipids they are very good source of energy. Proteins. Proteins, they are made of long chain of amino acids. So amino acids, whenever they are connected together, these are, imagine that are the amino acids. Whenever they are connected together in a long chain, they give what is known by proteins. So proteins, they are found where? In fish, you know this from page 4 or 5, chicken, meat, dairy products, eggs, and beans. Proteins, they are very important for the growth and for repairing the damaged tissues. What does this mean? This means that if you don't eat food that's rich in proteins like meat, like chicken, like fish, like eggs and beans, you are missing an important element for growth and for repairing the damaged tissue. So here, growth is needed in the presence, or proteins are needed, sorry, to have the growth of the cells and the growth of the individual. So here, what is known by the proteins. So proteins are very important for the growth and for repairing the damaged tissues. Wherever you have a damaged tissue, protein, they help in repairing this. For example, you have damage in, for example, in the bones. You broke your leg, for example. What helps this? Help this the protein that you eat. So eating the protein will help to repair this damaged tissue. So proteins, they are composed of simple element, which is the amino acids. We finished everything related to the in or for the organic. Sorry. Now we're going to move to the inorganic. Inorganic, it consists only of water and mineral salts. So mainly our work is going to be based on the organic food. So this diagram is illustrating everything, the summary. food is divided into carbohydrates, lipids, and the proteins. So to make it simple, we said that carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins, we have complex form, we have intermediate form, and we have simplest form. Inorganic, they are water and mineral salts, so we're going to focus mainly on organic. This table is very important. This table is showing the different forms as a set for carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, this is the category of it. I don't want you to study that it's natural source of sugar, fast source of energy, contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. You have to know that it's a good source of energy only. The complex form is called polysaccharides. The intermediate form is called disaccharide, while the simplest form is called monosaccharide. What are the polysaccharides? They are a complete chain of simple sugars. So like starch is an example of polysaccharide, cellulose, and nuts. So here they are polysaccharides. So polysaccharides, they are a long chain of sugars. While disaccharides, disaccharides, they are made up of two simple sugars connected to each other. So two simple sugars connected to each other, we call it di. Why did we say it's di? Meaning that it's two. So two, it's di. For example, maltose, it's glucose plus glucose. Lactose, it's glucose and galactose. Where it's found, it said lactose is found in milk. Sucrose, it's glucose that is bonded with fructose. So all of them, they are the disaccharides. Later, we're going to talk about reducing sugar and non-reducing sugar later on. So here you have to know that the complex form of carbohydrates is called polysaccharides. The disaccharides is the intermediate. What's about the monosaccharide? The monosaccharide is the simplest form. What the meaning of simplest is the nutrient that we absorb and that we use it in our body. So simplest form of sugars. We have example glucose, fructose, and galactose. They are simple forms or they are the nutrient form. Now let's move for proteins. Proteins, I don't want you to study that plastic food for growth. And you have to know only it has important role in growth and repairing the damaged tissues. Complex form of protein, what do we call it? Also it's called protein. Why? What is a protein? Protein is a chain, it's like a chain of more than 52 amino acid. So whenever it's more than 52 amino acid, we call it a protein. But if we have a chain that is less than 52 amino acid, what do we call it? We call it polypeptide. So polypeptide is a chain that contains less than 52 amino acid. So we call it polypeptide. So polypeptide is a chain that contains less than 52 amino acid. So here, the complex form of protein is called protein. The intermediate form is called polypeptide, and the simplest form is called amino acid. So the simplest form, we call it amino acid since it's composed of only one. For example, this is the amino acid. This is one. More than one amino acid that are connected together, but they are less than 52. Pay attention here. They are less than 52. We call them polypeptide. While if they are more than 52, they are connected to each other. We call them a protein, which is the complex form. So you have to know from now on that the complex form of protein is a protein. It's composed of a long chain of more than 52 amino acids, whereas polypeptide is the intermediate, which is in between the complex and the simple intermediate. It's a chain that contains less than 52 amino acids, whereas amino acid is the poor one. Amino acid is the simple form. It's the nutrient. It's composed of only one. So one alone, we call it amino acid. More than one, but less than 52, we call it polypeptide. Moving now to the third type of organic food, just the lipids. Lipids, you have to know that they are very energetic. They give a high amount of energy. Same quantity of lipids you have has double the amount of energy than that of the carbohydrates. Imagine that we eat 5 grams of lipids and 5 grams of carbohydrates. The 5 grams of lipids will give you double, meaning that times 2 the amount of energy provided by carbohydrates. So here, this is the uh, note about the carbohydrates and the lipids. You have to know that lipids, they are very good source of energy. So they are very energetic. They give double the amount of energy than that provided by the same amount of carbohydrates. So if you eat the same amount of lipids and carbohydrates, lipids will give you more amount of energy. What's special about lipids that here we don't have intermediate. We have complex and we have simple. Complex form is called the lipids or fats. People who get obesity is because of these lipids. They eat a high amount of lipids. This amount of lipids will be confirmed, will be a fat, and will lead to problems in the obesity, and you have a problem in the obesity. Okay, so here the lipids is the problem, while the complex form is lipids, or it's called the fats, while the simplest form it's called fatty acids and glycerol. Pay attention, not fatty. Okay, علي بسمع هلا بقول لي فادي. So not fatty acids, not fatty acids. It's double T. Pay attention to this. Okay, so it's fatty acids plus glycerol. So you have to pay attention to this, the complex and the simplest form. Okay, guys. So this is everything related to our first lesson regarding the digestion, regarding the uh, digestion introduction with different types of food. Here I'm going to stop and then we'll continue the lesson next week regarding the different tests. How can we identify that we have lipids? How can we identify that we have proteins and others?